Several weeks ago, I had the opportunity of exploring Lincoln Park on the north side of Chicago. Being from the Chicago Southland, I rarely ever visit communities directly north of the Loop, so this was kind of an adventure for me. Nevertheless, this neighborhood exceeded my expectations by a lot. So in this video, I will be discussing the amazing urban planning and architecture of the neighborhood, and how it can serve as a blueprint for other cities in the United States to develop. Hello, I'm the Southland Urbanist. I advocate for the urban design of communities similar to what you're about to see in this video. If you like my content and want me to review other places I visit, consider subscribing for more. Thanks! Before discussing my visit to Lincoln Park, I'd like to give a quick discussion about its history. In 1837, the same year the city of Chicago was established, the state of Illinois granted permission for Chicago residents to establish a cemetery north of the city limits. In the coming years, however, the area began to see population growth by German immigrants and affluent Chicagoans, leading to concerns that the burial ground would pose sanitation risks to the new communities. In response, the Chicago Common Council repurposed the area as a public park in 1860. The area was named Lincoln Park in 1865 following the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, and was annexed by the city of Chicago in 1898. Although the Chicago Fire of 1871 swept through much of the neighborhood, Lincoln Park continued growing in population throughout the late 1800s and early 1900s, especially from wealthy residents and immigrant groups such as Poles. Starting at the Great Depression and continuing into the post-war period, however, Lincoln Park faced urban decline and its buildings were deteriorating. To prevent continued decline of the neighborhood, the Lincoln Park Conservation Association was founded in 1954 and has since conducted a reurbanization effort to preserve the neighborhood's historic character, stabilize property values, and promote community reinvestment. Today, Lincoln Park is among the wealthiest neighborhoods in Chicago, being comprised of young adults and urban professionals. I started my journey at Fullerton and Stockton, walking northbound along the shoreline of North Pond. The walk was pleasant, with the surrounding trees and animals such as geese creating a quiet and laid-back environment, even in a high-density urban area. I also really liked the view of North Pond. I've always enjoyed seeing the contrast between the natural and built environments, with lush trees and vegetation in front of towering high-rises. I know this view is not for everyone, but it shows that it is possible to create natural parks within bustling cities, giving residents an opportunity to escape from the commotion of urban life so that they can have a chance for a quiet moment with nature in the middle of the city. Walking toward Clark Street, I was genuinely amazed by the apartment designs. There are only a small handful of neighborhoods in the Chicago area with this much beauty put into the design of residential homes. Now, I know the apartments are like this because the larger scale wealth of residents living here a century ago allowed for money to be spent on these types of decorations, but neighborhoods do not necessarily need to have ornate decorations to feel beautiful and welcoming. Of course, we need beauty in the design of our buildings so that we would not have something like this. But, along with Lincoln Park's beautiful buildings, the neighborhood's charm also lies within how it was designed. Almost everything you see here was built before the mainstream use of cars, meaning this area was planned with people in mind. The scale of the buildings, the walkable layout of the streets, and the trees that line those streets all create an environment that makes you want to step out of your house and mingle with your neighbors. Could you say the same for a setting like this? Clark Street was awesome. It was great to see so many local businesses along the street, especially after the pandemic. What makes this even better is that it's a short walking distance away from many residential homes. If you live close enough, you could walk from your home to get coffee within 2 minutes, rather than having to drive 10 to 15 minutes from your suburban home to a Starbucks surrounded by parking. And this was not even the main commercial area of Lincoln Park. We'll get to that in a bit. Lincoln Park does have its flaws, however, particularly how it was overrun by cars when I visited. Clark Street was a bit noisy from car traffic, and the parked cars and parking garages somewhat took away from the beautiful urban setting. But it wasn't too much that the character and charm of the neighborhood was significantly ruined. I'd much prefer cars parked along an urban street surrounded by century-old building facades, rather than those buildings to be bulldozed for surface parking. My least favorite part of the trip, though, was crossing a 6-way intersection where Fullerton Avenue, Lincoln Avenue, and Halsted Street converge. The intersection was large and did not fit with the high density and walkability of Lincoln Park, and crossing the street was a bit nerving. But again, the intersection was not too detrimental to the urban footprint of the neighborhood. I ended my visit to Lincoln Park by walking along Lincoln Avenue, which is the main street area of the neighborhood. Just like Clark Street, Lincoln Avenue was filled with shops and restaurants, but the detailed facades of the buildings and the trees along Lincoln Avenue made it much more charming. I saw a lot of people in the bars and restaurants conversing, laughing, and overall having a good time. It gave the street a warm, welcoming feel that makes you want to stay a while and explore, rather than quickly pass through as you probably would in a suburban strip mall. I also saw this advertisement for a Squid Game event, and by the way, the final season of Squid Game has just been released on Netflix, if you want to check that out. While admiring the exceptional urban design of Lincoln Park, I kept thinking to myself, how can this be illegal to build today? Because really, the modern zoning laws across the vast majority of the United States, including minimum parking requirements, minimum lot sizes, and separations from residential and commercial spaces, prevent the dense, walkable, and overall pleasant development of these types of neighborhoods in favor of cars. Over the past century, we seem to have forgotten the benefits of designing and building our cities for people rather than vehicles, and I believe that for this reason we associate walkable communities like Lincoln Park as being old-fashioned and nostalgic. But Lincoln Park serves as a living reminder of how great cities can be when streets are made for walking, homes and businesses coexist with each other, and beauty rather than minimalism is implemented into everyday spaces. If we want to create places that encourage social interactions, reduce carbon footprints, and support a vibrant lifestyle, we need to reconsider the choices we have made when designing our cities. We can choose to continue building neighborhoods the way we have done for the past 70 years, with low-density, cul-de-sac-ridden subdivisions separated by ugly, dangerous roads, and big-box stores surrounded by massive parking lots. Or we can build neighborhoods like Lincoln Park again. Which choice do you think is better? I'm the Southland Urbanist. I'll see you next time.